For many decades, the US Air Force in Europe took up residence at RAF Alconbury, and during the 1980s and early 1990s, it was home to the Lockheed U-2 high-altitude spy planes, and specifically the TR-1A variant. During this time, it was relatively easy to monitor radio communications from the base. Obviously, nothing was given away as to what their missions entailed, but they had a dedicated radio channel nicknamed Scully Ops, which was a great way to monitor inbound and outbound traffic, along with London Military and Eastern Radar. The U-2s used the call sign Rook followed by a number, and in this video we'll be eavesdropping on Rook 07, a US Air Force U-2 pilot on a routine flight out of RAF Alconbury. His transmissions were picked up many miles away, and the audio I'm going to share with you has never been published and was recorded from a radio scanner monitoring Scully Ops, London Military and Eastern Radar. It was easy to pick up the U-2s at long distances because they flew up to 70,000 feet in altitude, but some of the ground stations were somewhat harder to hear. So let's join Rook 07 as he declares an in-flight emergency. He has contaminated oxygen, has pulled the green apple, which is the handle for the emergency oxygen system, and is trying to coordinate his way back to RAF Alconbury.
But we'd like a handover to Eastern, please, to work in the Stanford area.
Rook 07, pick the guard frequency for 1, please. Ops, Scully Ops, Rook 07. Rook 07, I'm going to be returning early. I'm about 80 miles to the southwest, feeling well. Y'all. And you'll probably want to talk to me right now. I'm monitoring 289.6, a London Mill freak. 07 going back. And then Rook 07's back your frequency. Please be advised, I'm not feeling very well and needing a descent for a low altitude as soon as possible. 07 descending. And 07. Take a while for me to get down. London Rook 07, I'd like to go off frequency for 1 again.
So, as you can hear, Rook 07 has started to feel unwell. He was working a London Military frequency and asked the controller for permission to go back to Scully Ops to make Alconbury aware of the situation. He then switches back to London Military to request a change of altitude before heading back to Scully Ops.
Scully Ops, Rook 07. I declared an emergency. I'm coming home as quickly as I can. 07's back up, London.
073, Roger. 286.6, thank you.
Your Squadron Ops, this is Rook 07. London, may I talk to my home station? You're up on your frequency. Certainly. It's affirmative. They're handing me over to Eastern shortly, and they'll let me talk on that one. I'm through 45,000 feet now, descending. Don't feel well. I've pulled the green apple. I see you again, London. Roger, Rook 07. Squawking 0272. 286.6. Switching 286.6.
Roger, 245 for 150. 701.
So it seems that Rook 07 has passed a message to Alconbury on the London Military frequency, but I can't be sure. The London Military controller then passes him over to Eastern Radar, where he can keep in contact with Alconbury before switching over to Scully Ops to explain the situation in detail.
Eastern, Rook 07's passing flight level 430 with a fan. I just need to lose some altitude. And Eastern, if it's possible, I'd like to go off frequency for 1. 07's up. For the last half hour to sort of on a quick onset of almost hypoxia-type symptoms, tingling, but not quite as bad enough right away, and eventually I said this is bullshit to keep the way I was feeling. Just total lack of concentration, and couldn't keep the cockpit out for myself. I was warm, and I decided that this was the wrong place to try and gut it out for a couple of tenths of an hour. Started sneaking down on altitude to see if I could get an increase in cabin pressurization, inflated the suit, and then eventually pulled the green apple, although I'm still on cabin oxygen because of the increased pressure coming out of the systems. 37,000 cabin pressurization's down at 19 now. They're off now. I probably need to go back to Eastern pretty quick. They gave me a descent to 25,000. And Eastern Rook 07's back with you. But you're passing flight level 350 for 160.
And finally, Rook 07 seems to be feeling somewhat better as he enters a spiral descent in the Alconbury overhead. So let's join him for the last time as he plans his orbit and safe landing.
Yep, 7, that's affirmative. Go ahead with the weather. Rook 07. Get the spiral down in the overhead for a visual straight in full stop. Rook 07, I'll be setting up right-hand turns to lose further altitude once I'm overhead. Go ahead, Rook 07. Roger. Down to 10,000 cabin now. Yeah, feeling somewhat better, although I'm not 100% yet. Directly overhead at 23,000 actual altitude and orbiting now, coming down. 60, Rook 07.
092.
So a lucky day for Rook 07 there, as he experienced contaminated oxygen and avoided a potentially dangerous situation. If things had gone the other way, we could have been looking at the crash of a U-2 spy plane in London.